Alright, I'm going to do a video on preparing your harness for installation of the Oracle fog lights. I've done the easy part, which is mounting the fog lights into the modular bumper. What you can see, and I've kind of already started until I figured out to do this, right, so this is the wiring harness you get along with your Oracle fog lights. One thing you're going to notice right, is there's pretty much three legs to this wiring harness. The first thing, right, this is detachable. If you have a Lux package or high that has the aux switches and the pre-wiring, that's kind of the scenario I'm going to walk through. So the first thing is we're not going to use this harness, right? We're going to use parts of this harness, so we're going to have to take things off of it. The first thing I did, because I don't know exactly how much wire I'm going to need, is there's some shrink wrap or tube shrink around this connector here. So what I'm going to do is these are the important parts that we're going to connect to the fog lights. So we're going to keep these, but we're going to have to disconnect them from this assembly. So what we're going to do is we're ultimately going to cut the harness here. We're going to cut we're going to have black and red, power and ground, and then what we're going to do is we are going to connect, I'm going to try to use the existing wiring that is available on the Badlands Lux, the pre-wiring, and then I'm going to wire this to Aux1 or the auxiliary 1 switch. It is a 30 amp breaker on it, or fuse. What you'll notice here is the fuse on the wiring harness is right here. This is the part we're not going to use. When you open this, you'll see there's a 30 amp fuse, right? Green fuse, 30 amps. So we're good to go to use the auxiliary 1 fuse, or the auxiliary 1 switch, which has a 30 amp fuse. Something that doesn't really come across very well in the forums is that the auxiliary 1 fuse, or the auxiliary 1 switch, right, already has power to it. It's already grounded. So essentially what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to connect the red wires. Once we separate this and we connect both red wires to the yellow wire that goes to auxiliary 1, and then what we need to do then is we need to ground the blacks on the chassis or to some other ground point within the engine bay. The tools I'm going to use to do this and to accomplish this, I got some electrical tape, probably not high tech. I got the cold weather version because I live in Chicago, which gets really fucking cold. I got some connectors. These also are heat shrink ones, so I'll be able to do that. I intend to tape them up just because I want to make this bomb proof. I don't want to get any moisture going into any of my wiring. And then I got some connectors for the ground as well. I got these are 16 to 14 gauge, and I think these are, I don't know, that's what they are, 12 to 10. We'll see if they work. Not too terribly concerned about it because again the ground just goes to the chassis, and then I got some crimpers too, so that should be what we need to accomplish getting these things wired. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to disassemble our harness here. So you can see this is where the auxiliary switch, I've disconnected it already. This is the power and ground for the harness. We're not going to mess with that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to separate, or I guess that's a euphemism, right? I'm actually going to cut these wires. These two sets which go to the fog lights. There we go, success. So you can see, after cutting, this is the connector end that is going to go into the fog lights. The red wire is going to go to our purple pre-wired front grille power. Just a little word of explanation on that. So we got the auxiliary switches. I think I described how that works. The pre-wiring on the Badlands essentially, right, is just a unconnected wire that's run through the engine compartment. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect both powers to that disconnected, I believe it's violet with a gray stripe, that goes to the front engine grill. And then what we're going to do is this way we won't have to run these wires all the way through the compartment. We'll just have to run them up to that front wire. That wire is already run so that it meets close to where the auxiliary switch within the engine compartment wiring comes out, and then all I need to do is connect that switch, that disconnected wire to auxiliary 1, and then ground the lights with the black wire, and then we should have success. After modifying the harness, this is what you should have. We don't need this. If you're a cheap bastard like me, you may want to pull out the 30 amp fuse and put it in your glove box in case you blow a fuse. Otherwise, right, we have these two separated harnesses, and this is what we're going to use to connect the fog light. So I'm going to show you here, this is clearly the engine compartment of a Bronco Badlands with Deluxe Package 2.7. This is the pre-run violet or purple and gray wire. This is not connected to anything. It's just a piece of wire. You can see it's sealed up on both ends. So we're going to take advantage of this, and what my intention is we're going to use the red power from both fog lights. I'm going to connect them here. Now, where is the other end of this disconnected wire, you ask? It's back there, right? So you can see that little yellow wire sticking out. Beautiful contrast with the cyber orange and the yellow wire. So this is the power, or I should say this is the power that goes to auxiliary 1. You can see down here, this is the other end of that purple and gray wire. So ultimately, I'm going to connect these two wires, right? So now that power extends out to here, and then from my fog lights, I am going to run the red wire, or the power wire, here. I haven't quite figured out where I'm going to ground the two black wires, but we'll figure that out as we go. This is going to be the end that goes into the fog lights. That's pretty obvious. And then this is going to be the end that wires to our loose end of the purple wire, or whatever you want to call that. So many options. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to beware of the radiator fans, and I'm going to just run this down. Or should I run this down? Probably through here, maybe. Decisions. Right, I don't want to get it too close to the radiator hose, even though that's insulated. I'm not really a big fan of putting it on top of the air intake here, so maybe I'll just route it underneath there. And we're going to route this down just so you could kind of see that. And then what we're going to do is, you can see I've left this out here after having installed or mounted them within the bumper. So my plan is to connect here, and then that way, right, route the wire. As I've wired this down in through there in the body, which comes down through here, you can see it leads here. I've already connected it. I didn't show you the hard part of sticking my hand back there, but it's not too hard, because if you go under the bumper, you can feed it through. If you feed it through the top, you can see I still got a lot of slack here as well. I'm also going to tape that up a little bit just to weatherproof it as well. I'm just trying to get the rough connection in first of all, and then what I'll do is I'll go back and just tape the shit out of this. All right. So right, this is essentially where that ended up. As you can see, I've not fitted it yet. Now taking this second wire, and we're going to feed it down here as well. This side is a little more busier as we look down. Just want to make sure we don't put anything where it's next to something really hot or extreme temperature. So let's try right here. It looks like some form of coolant hose. So I fed that down in there, and we can see, we can't see it. So I'm gonna have to fish it out of there. So I'm gonna fish it out of there and we'll figure this out. Right, I've run this up, right? So this is driver side. This is passenger side. Still haven't quite figured out how to run this quite to my satisfaction. It's kind of floating out here. But there are some attachment points on some of the fan cowlings here, so maybe I'll leverage that. Again, reviewing the plan. Purple wire with gray stripe. We're going to attach the red wires, both of them, plural, to the single purple with a gray stripe wire. And then we're going to run the black wires and connect those to an engine compartment ground as an example, right? There's plenty of places to ground around the engine compartment. You can see a couple more back there, right? So that's the plan. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the sheathing. I'm going to cut the sheathing so I can cut the power wire and strip it out of here. I'm keeping the sheathing on the harness. I know some people are going to take it off. I guess it doesn't matter. Just call me, I don't know, cautious. It's there probably for a good reason. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully take a fancy little knife here, cut a little bit out of here. So you can see, you got to be careful not to damage the wires, obviously. But essentially I'm doing this so I could get to that red wire and then cut that. What I'll do is I'll leave the ground to wherever I'm going to run that. But I want just enough so I could cut and extract a little power wire here. So there we go. Fancy knife. And then we're going to come in here and make sure you got enough wire, right? So make sure you have enough. We're going to cut the power there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to strip the rest of that out here. Excess, right? It's not always a bad thing when you have extra parts left over. You can see I've already run the wire for the driver's side fogs. I essentially ran them straight down. I'm going to do a similar thing. Right, the idea here is I don't want wires going all over the hell. I mean, there's enough shit running all over the engine compartment. I don't want to contribute to that. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to take my fancy knife and I'm going to very carefully maybe stick my thumb in there so I could just stick the tip in and just start peeling away some of this sheathing. We'll give ourselves a little more real estate here in the sheathing. So then that way what I could do is get in there and cut that power. Being careful not to damage the wires, of course. Right? So I've got enough of this. I got enough to get to where I need to go. I'm going to put my fancy knife down. I'm not going to cut myself. I'm going to pull a little bit of this out too, just to give myself a little extra. Cut that there. On this side, I guess I could pull it out through this way, right? Goes both ways. Right. Again, extra, not always bad. So now what I'm going to do is these guys, these two reds, connect to Mr. Violet over here. Violet with a gray stripe, fancy dressed wire. And then what we're going to do is we're going to connect these. And then on the firewall side, we're simply going to connect, again, violet wire with gray stripe to the yellow 30 amp auxiliary 1 switch. Here, you can see I got the connector in there. Going to tape this up just because. Then we're going to ground. We're going to connect those two wires, and then we're going to hit the aux switch, and we should have fog lights. Okay, so just to review, we got our violet wire, which is the front wiring with the gray stripe, connected to our yellow. Yellow's connected to auxiliary 1. We got our grounds in place. I'm fighting off the rain here. You probably don't want to work on electrical components in the rain. But I don't know, I just had to get this going, so. Okay, so we could see that my Bronco still has electricity. After that, we did not burn our Bronco down. Let me hit the engine. I'll hit the windshield wiper too. We'll turn that off.
So I can understand what time.
There we go. No one needs to listen to that. Okay, so what you're going to see is Aux1, and you might be able to see the shadow there. That's probably not too dramatic. What I'll do is I'll through the wonder of modern technology with my forward camera, you're going to see right, our fronts work. Right, you can see several different views there, back of the garage. I'll also do this as proof from the front.